Namaskar. Pangea to India. If you see the history of India, currently it is in three parts. The first part is from the time India got independence in 1947 up to date. Second is from the time India got invaded by some, basically from the Islamic invaders, till the time India became independent. Now it appears that in 712 CE, Muhammad bin Qasim had invaded Sindh and Punjab. But then he didn't come thereafter inside the country. It is also said that Alexander had invaded in 326 BCE. But there is no tangible proof for that. So we will take it that for all the common era or CE is the second part. And the third part of history is before common era, or which falls in BCE. Things like Mahabharata, Ramayana, Surya Siddhant, Rigveda, Adaved, Puran, Upanishad, everything. But is that all? Is that the only history of the country, or there is some more? And how Pangea is related to that? So let us understand first. If you do the Google search, you will find that Pangea is referred to a single continent which got formed when the earth was forming. All land was together, and that land today is referred as Pangea, and all the water was together to form a single ocean. How was it formed? You will not find. So let us understand how Pangea was formed, for which we should understand how earth was formed. And to understand how earth was formed, we have to also understand how the earth was not formed. So to understand how the earth was not formed, let us consider the planet Saturn. Today, if we see the planet Saturn, we find that it is tilted with respect to its orbital plane. The tilt is about 26.73, that's what the internet says. And it is spinning around itself, which takes about 10.6 hours measured as measured on the Earth to complete one spin around itself. And it has too many moons, some spherical, some non-spherical, asteroid-like, and those mysterious rings. And with all that, Saturn is rotating around the Sun in a uniform motion. In this presentation today, I am going to present very many new theories which are much different from the existing theories. These theories will give, side by side, it will give the required evidence to show how these theories stand a better chance over the existing theories. Okay, so to start with Saturn. When Saturn was getting formed, it was a kind of molten lava, sphere of molten lava. And this sphere of molten lava was spinning around itself. How do you know it? Because today also it is spinning around itself. It has an axis around which it spins. So as a planet getting formed, it still had the axis, it had the obliquity, it was rotating around itself, or rather spinning around itself, and while doing so, it was rotating around the Sun in a uniform motion. Now, on the Earth we see whenever there is a volcano eruption, along with the lava, smoke, gases come out. So possibly when Saturn was rotating, some gases and smoke might have come out. As a result, some droplets of molten lava might have got thrown out, which subsequently cooled down to become the spherical moons of Saturn. There is one more thing. If we take in our house, if we take raw milk, just boil it in a utensil. Before the milk is boiled, it is a homogeneous liquid. But after it gets boiled and as it cools down, you notice that some particles become lighter and go towards the surface of the milk. So after the milk is boiled, when you keep it for cooling down, at the time it reaches the room temperature, you find a layer of these particles floating on the top of the milk, which we call cream. Now this layer is not uniform. Somewhere it is thin, somewhere it is thick. If you put that utensil in the refrigerator for a couple of hours, it becomes real thick. It is a flexible, solid layer which is not yet hardened. Using your finger, if you just press on the top of the surface, it dips. You release the finger, it comes back, bounces back. I believe something similar must have happened when Saturn was cooling down. Some particles must have got lighter and must have traveled towards the surface of Saturn. But because it was spinning around itself, this process must have started at both the poles and must have started moving towards the equator of Saturn. Again, the thickness of this layer getting formed was not consistent. Somewhere it was thinner, somewhere it was thicker. Likewise was the movement of this layer towards the equator. Somewhere it had developed more, somewhere it had developed less. Now as this was happening, probably at some point of time some gases leaked out, and these gases, while leaving the spherical molten lava, knocked off some part of the layer which was getting formed. Now this layer had cooled down a little compared to the molten lava temperature. So these pieces which got knocked down later cooled down to become non-spherical asteroid-like moons of Saturn. Over a period of time, these layers from both the sides must have reached the equatorial position. At some place they might have merged. There might be some gap yet to be filled, which was slowly filling up. Till at one point of time it might have happened that all the places these two layers from two sides have merged, but some small hole, aperture-like hole is balanced yet to be filled. That is when some gases or smoke must have come out from the body of Saturn, from the molten lava. Now see, what must have happened is, like we use the sprays, whether it is for aftershave lotion or perfumes or some pesticides. What do we do? When you use the spray, it is the air pressure which converts the liquid into very small droplets and a spray comes out. Some such spray must have come out, and because Saturn was spinning, the spray covered all around it to form those mysterious rings, which mystery I have just explained, and it is no more mysterious. Now that's how the Saturn was formed. Evidently, Earth was not formed in the same manner, because had Earth been formed in the same manner, Earth would have had too many moons as well as the rings like Saturn. Studies at Carnegie Institute of Science in Washington DC says that the moon is 100 million years younger than Earth. I don't know. I don't want to go into details, but only thing it tells me that I'm on the right path, because if it is 100 million years younger than Earth, there was no moon when the Earth was being formed. So Earth was also a sphere of molten lava, There was no moon around it. Obviously, it was also not spinning around itself, because had it been spinning, then like Saturn, it would have had some moons around it. So the Earth was not spinning. It was in an orbit around the Sun, going in a uniform motion. And evidently, only one side of the Earth was facing the Sun, like the one side of Moon which faces the Earth today, because Moon does not spin around itself. So that was the condition. The atmosphere around the Earth also was hot and was expanded. There was no water on the surface of Earth. All the water must have got vaporized and held as humidity in the atmosphere. So as the temperature started falling, this molten lava also had developed the layer from the particles which had become lighter and formed the core around the sphere. Earth in the spherical form. So you have a molten lava, Earth in molten lava form, covered with a core which is flexible, solid but not hardened, moving around itself, along with the atmosphere which is also hot and holds high level of humidity. When the temperature first must have come down below 100 degrees centigrade, some part of the humidity must have got condensed and must have got collected on the surface of the Earth. Now this core layer was flexible, so it must have accommodated by dipping down, and a small pond might have formed. Further reduction in temperature would have brought in more condensed water to convert the pond into a lake, and thereafter a lake into a sea. Around 60 degrees centigrade, most of this humidity must have got converted into water and must have got collected on the surface of the Earth. Now this quantity had not covered all the surface. There was some part left open which did not get covered by the water. That is the single continent land which today we refer as Pangea. And that is how Pangea was formed. Even at 60 degrees, sun's heat would evaporate the seawater, formation of clouds leading to rain, providing fresh water to the earth, which on Pangea as well as on ocean. And when this continued for a longer period, that the land must have started getting changed to some extent. There must be soil formation, sand formation, and there was a water with the soil mud formation. And it must have happened for a too long a period, maybe few decades or centuries, we have no idea. But as this was happening and as the condition on the surface of the earth changed, someday a sprout must have come up, opening its leaves, declaring the arrival of visible life on earth. Some herbs, plants, creepers, and even trees must have followed to make the total Pangea get converted into greenery. And then there must be some more addition of various plants, herbs, creepers, trees, which had flowers of different colors. And suddenly Pangea must have looked colorful. Possibly this is the time when the large size dinosaur, the vegetarian ones, must have arrived. They would eat the leaves and leaves of herbs, plants, trees, as well as tree branches maybe. And then one more revolution took place. A new type of trees came in where the flowers were later getting converted into fruits. Now for this to happen, pollen from one flower of one tree should get transported to ovule of the similar flower on some other tree. Today that is done by honeybees, butterflies, very many such insects supported by wind. So wind alone is not sufficient. That time also wind alone was not sufficient. So that is when the flying dinosaur must have arrived with a beak, vegetarian, who would eat petals like things of the flower, and while doing so the pollens get stuck to its beak, get transported to the ovule when it goes to other tree, flower on the other tree, and that's how the formation of fruits also started. It is said that a female dinosaur on an average was laying 20 eggs or more at a time. So too many types of flying dinosaur, too many types of large sized dinosaur, population must have really increased. And that is when the non-veg type of dinosaur, both flying, non-flying, must have arrived to have a balance. And thereafter the things must be kind of all is well. Everything was fine. And then it happened. Suddenly, the one object from the space is said to have come and hit the surface of the earth. It is said that that impact raised a dust cloud, dinosaurs got suffocated and died. And it became extinct. Now that extinction was not so much approved. So someone said probably the object might have got some gases to ensure that they all died and became extinct. And then after many years, new type of life came. The insects that we see today, the birds that we see today, the animals that we see today, and human beings. Neanderthal, Homo erectus, and Homo sapien. I don't buy that. It is like saying that if the Third World War takes place and all the living species on the surface of the world get extinct, the new life which comes up will be of the size of Lilliputians in Gulliver Travels. That doesn't happen. Today, if I say, consider 4 people: European, African, Indian, Chinese, you distinctly get the idea how they look like. They're not looking identical. There is a lot of difference. The studies led by Dr. Alan Wilson at the University of California at Berkeley lead to believe that everyone alive today may be a descendant of a single female ancestor who lived in Africa some 150 to 300,000 years ago. If all have originated from the same woman, why so much difference? Then you say, oh, that's because of climatic difference. So even for that difference, that change, you want climatic difference. And when the size changes from dinosaur to, see, one of the biggest thing is elephant. That's it. Everything is lesser in size. How do you believe it? Well, then what really happened? Why this happened? So let us understand what happened when that object hit the surface of the earth. It is said that it hit the surface of the earth somewhere in the region of Mexico as we know it today. And if you see this, if the object comes up and hits like this and goes away from it. Okay. Now, this is the force with which it hits the earth. Now, according to the second law of motion by Newton, a force, if the object with a mass m is moving with an acceleration a, the force so developed is the product of mass and acceleration, that is F equal to ma. And the third law of motion, everyone knows, is a equivalent reaction takes place. So if this object did hit here and go out, there was a force and there must have been reaction from the earth. Now to understand this is how it hit. Suppose this is the force. Now it has two vectors. I have not shown the vertical vector because the vertical vector will help the object to escape in the space. It is the horizontal vector which we are interested in. That is the force with which the object must have hit the earth to push it around. Right? Now what happens? Suppose I don't have any earth sphere, so I'll take this pencil to have the consider it as an axis of the earth. So you push it, it will go into a noding action. Right? Wrong. When you push it, it does go into a node, but simultaneously the molten lava inside also gets pushed suddenly, loses its balance, swirls around, and when it comes back, it comes in this fashion and then keeps on wobbling. So, if the object would have hit the earth, it would have introduced a node-like action and a wobble-like action, right? What was the force? We don't know. It could be like this or like this, where it is now the horizontal vector is more, so earth gets pushed, in a more, what shall I say, strong manner, right? But is that really what really happened? I don't think so. I believe that the object came from somewhere there, and it hit this in a tangential manner on the surface. Now everyone knows what is a tangent. If you see a circle and a line which meet only at a single point, then the line is said to be a tangent. So if I consider a circle or a ring, when something comes hit at a point and goes away, everyone knows that this will start rolling in this manner. Correct? But we have already seen that it had got the noding action, wobbling action, and this would have given it a spin around itself. Being a spherical object, Earth being a spherical object, it would have got a spin around itself. So while noding, wobbling and spinning, it would have rolled away. Why it would have rolled away? Let us consider what is the first law of motion by Newton. Every body continues to be in its state of rest or continues to be in its uniform motion unless acted upon by an external force. Now Earth was in a uniform motion. But when the external force got acted, it just cannot continue in that uniform motion. If it does, then we are defying all the three laws of motion. So it didn't. So effectively what happened was, the earth, while nodding, wobbling, spinning, rolled away from the original orbit. Now there was another thing which happened simultaneously. Today if we throw a ball up in the air, it falls back. So the object which had tangentially hit was still having the Earth's gravitational force acting upon it. As far as Earth was concerned, Earth had two forces acting on it. One, the force developed due to the impact of the object, making it go away from the sun, and the force of gravitational pull by the sun itself. And what happened to the object was, it appears that object was going away from the earth now, but simultaneously earth also was going away from the object. So the object did not come back to fall on the earth again, but it started going around the earth and became our moon. So when the moon started going around the earth, all the ocean water followed it to form low and high and low tides, just like it happens today. And because it followed it, it was already spinning, rolling, the lava inside also followed the same action, and over a period of time, both these objects got stabilized and the moon started rotating around the earth, and earth got into a new orbit to go into a uniform motion around the sun. Now let's see what all things had changed for the earth. First, the distance of the earth from the sun had increased. Second, as a result, the temperature on the surface of the earth had fallen down. Number 3, now it had a moon, and because it was rotating around the earth, it was helping the earth to spin around itself. Fourth, the earth had the tilt with respect to the orbit in which plane of the orbit in which it travels. Fifth, the node gave rise to the obliquity. Today the obliquity is said to be 23.4, but it varies between about 22.8 or so to about 25. From one end to other and back it takes 41,000 years. So that is how obliquity got introduced. Next was the wobble. Wobble introduced the precision of equinoxes. The Earth's north celestial pole and north pole are different, and this precision of equinoxes got formed. Earth now had day and night. Earth also had seasons on it. And in this fashion, it continued its journey around the sun. So, when the dinosaurs were alive and the object hit the surface of the earth, the dust cloud so got raised must have killed all the living things, fine. But it was this drop in temperature which must have got them a thermal shock, which made them extinct. It was not only the impact of the dust cloud or any gases which made them extinct, but it was the thermal shock which made them extinct. See, let's understand one simple thing. I'll take some figures for everyone to understand. Let's say at one point of time, at that point of time when the impact took place, there were only 200,000 dinosaurs. 100,000 male, 100,000 female. Of the 100,000 female, only 10% had laid eggs, which means 10,000 had laid eggs. And how many eggs each one of them was laying on an average? 20. So 20 into 10,000, you get back 200,000, which is the total population. So you start with any figure, you will come back to the same thing. So if those many eggs were lying to be hatched, one cannot explain how they all got extinct unless there was a thermal shock, a large difference in temperature. Today, I am talking from the city of Bengaluru in India, and the average temperature is around 25-30 degrees. And it was 60 degrees when dinosaur lived, a drop of 35 degrees. So today if it is say 25 degrees outside, suddenly there is a dust cloud, suffocates everyone, that's fine. Temperature dropped to minus 10 degrees centigrade. How many will survive? Open terrain, no structure, you can't save yourself from anything. Everything will go extinct. Places where already there is a below zero temperature, they will be the one to go extinct first. So this is how the dinosaur became extinct. But then the new life which came is the one which we see today. I don't believe that there was any Neanderthal or Homo erectus or Homo sapiens separately. I'll tell you the reason why I say so. I came across two statements from two different people which I found on the internet. The article which was published in Smithsonian magazine says that humans may have more Neanderthal DNA than previously thought of. So there is a lot of human DNA, the Neanderthal DNA in humans. Okay. Now recently we had the pandemic COVID-19 which still is going on. And related to that I came across a statement which explained what this coronavirus or COVID-19 virus is like and how it has any connection with DNA, RNA. So what it said was DNA sequencing. DNA sequencing is said to be a sequence of nucleotides which are pieces of DNA. So that's how the DNA sequence gets formed. RNA is a molecule similar to DNA, which is a temporary copy of DNA. I'll repeat. RNA is a molecule similar to DNA and is a temporary copy of DNA. COVID-19 is said to have RNA. It doesn't stop there. What it further says that there are studies yet to be conducted and results yet to be found to know whether such COVID-19 with RNA from one person entering the body of other person does or does not have any effect of DNA of that other person, and permanent change or not. And technically, it will take a lot of time, because if there is a change in DNA, today you won't know it immediately. You have to go through the DNA structure of few generations, right? And suppose after a few generations, 8, 10 generations, you find that yes, there is a difference in the DNA. Then you find that as a Homo, it's something new type, and say Homo sapiens, more Homo sapien is found in that. We don't know. Possibly what we call Neanderthal or Homo erectus, those may be people who will be staying, might have faced pandemic, might be changed in the DNA structure of those people, and as a result, they are or were considered separately. In my opinion, no. Along with other animals, it was human, that is Homo sapien, which arrived. I also do not understand, if we have this DNA study, taking it back to one single woman, why have they stopped at the woman? They should have got back to find out which monkey it originated from. Ape, gorilla, chimpanzee, orangutan, or common monkeys? Or say it is ridiculous, it didn't happen. It's a separate species, it has nothing to do, that theory is wrong. Someone has to say that. Or someone has to prove by doing DNA analysis. Okay. So, all this I talked about the condition on the surface of the earth. But what really happened to the earth itself? So when the moon had hit the earth's surface in a tangential manner, what really happened? If you take an egg and with a pencil you just try to hit it tangentially with a small point of contact, what you will find that it may crack. But the crack need not be necessarily where you had hit it, because the core is not uniform. Core of the egg is not uniform. Likewise, when the moon hit the surface of the earth, it would have developed some crack. And that crack would get developed in the area which was thinner in that region compared with other areas. This is the chart I found somewhere, and I am using it for explaining it. You see these different things, but the Pangea was all one single piece. It was all one single piece. In my opinion, when it had hit somewhere in the Mexico region, I believe that the crack should have got developed in a U-like fashion, C or U-like fashion here. Or maybe there was some fragmentation here, but this was the one how it got developed. Now when the life started getting formed, the new life, including the humans, they would move everywhere. The crack existed. What was the width? 1 foot, 1 meter, 1 kilometer, 1 mile. I have no idea, and we need not worry about it. Because all the humans who resided then were primitive, they were all naked. And nothing to, they were everything. They were required to learn anything and everything. So they had to move everywhere basically in search of food. So they must have moved everywhere. I also believe that they must have settled in the area between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, because that is the area where you get good sunlight, good warmth. Some people might be adventurous, they might have moved out other places. So we find this being the central place, this must be the area where the people must have got settled down. It is also possible that people from this side might have traveled in this direction eastwards to find where the sun comes from. It is possible. So when the crack had got developed, as the earth was rotating, it started giving a kind of a drag on this part, which is this part, because this crack was there. This was attached to Africa, so here the drag must have been felt by both these continents. Okay, now there is something interesting. As per the studies at the Northwestern University in the United States, the earth was stressed before dinosaurs became extinct. Fair enough. The moon makes an impact, tangential impact here. Instantly, two things happen. A crack gets developed here, earth gets stressed, and simultaneously there is a dust cloud formation. Dinosaurs are still alive. They suffocate and die. And then the earth moves away from the sun to come into the new orbit. That's when they become extinct. Evidently, that university's claim is right, that earth was stressed when before dinosaurs became extinct. However, now the humans were moving all along this place, everywhere, maybe going here and here as well. Who knows? Everywhere. As the earth kept on spinning, this must have got separated out to move leftwards, westwards. And while doing so, it must have pulled the African continent also along with it. Now I have a problem. I don't know much of computer graphics, so I will explain with this map I have found by copy pasting, just to explain the things so you can understand. But that's not the exact positions. So bear with me. What would have happened after this, as the drag, this was getting dragged westwards as the earth was spinning around itself? What could have happened? Something like this would have happened first. This portion, now understand, all this is still connected. All this, even this, everything is connected. The crack is only from here to here. Possibly there may be some cracks developed here, there, somewhere. Possible. But the major crack was only this, which had expanded. Okay. And it was still pulling African continent westwards. And the next step would have been something like this. That it gets pulled away. This part becomes separated out. See, this is how the part was. When the Africa moves towards west, it gets separated out. And still pulling, it is still pulling African continent westward. At some point of time, this would have snapped. And when it snaps, this moves leftwards to become aligned where it is in today's condition. And as this moves here, African continent also moves eastwards. And while doing so, it gives an impact on this island created. Now, this is a wrong picture because, in my opinion, this is not how India was. It was much, much larger. And this was to the northwest of India then. So the impact took place when it was coming back. It hit this, and impact took place. Evidently, it developed some cracks. So the first thing happened was this crack and this crack took place, pushing Australia eastward and pushing Antarctica southwards, and they moved in that direction where they are found today. And possibly African continent, which continued its move, must have hit this balanced part of land, breaking Madagascar separate from India. Okay, so at this point of time, Africa had got separated, Antarctica got separated, Australia got separated, only India and Madagascar were together, and that is when human had started cultivation of food. Why do I say that? Because you cultivate, the paddy collected is stored, and when you store the paddy, then the domestic rat comes in. Today the DNA science says that all the domestic rats all over the world originate from the domestic rat of India, including the Madagascar. Now, how did the domestic rat go from India to Madagascar? This must be the place where they could go. And second part is that even the Indian human who were here and it got separated, so they got the human DNA directly from that African woman because they were part of Africa. It did not come via European, and that Aryan theory and all that is baseless. Just imagination. Some people, some people have a bad habit of pre-deciding the result and then working to achieve that pre-decided result than truth finding. I have not pre-decided anything. I went on truth forming, and this is what has come in front of me. So after this African continent hit, Madagascar got separated and India moved towards northeast. Now, something interesting. This is Sinai. This is Saudi Arabia. Here is Iraq. Okay. When India, I will not call it India, because the Indian literature says, even the Ramayana or Rigveda, they mention the name of the country as Jambu Dweep. Dweep means it is an island. Jambu is the name. Now, why would they call it Jambu Dweep, an island, when India today is not an island? They must have learnt it from generation to generation that once it was an island because someone was staying on that island. So I will call it Jambu Dweep. That Jambu Dweep started moving towards northeast. This was also following it in a way. And finally, it hit the mainland Asia. Now see the fun. From original Pangea, American continents had moved from the original place. African continent moved from the original place. Antarctica, Australia, India, Madagascar, everything moved except Eurasia. Now today the distance between east coast of Africa and base of Himalaya, it's something about 7,000 kilometers. It might have taken 25,000 to 75,000 years or even more for that island to have traveled from this place to finally reach mainland Asia. Now, 75,000 years thereafter, when you're talking the time taken for the island to travel, the Eurasia must have got really strong because it had not moved. It was there since its formation. And as this Jambudvip was moving towards mainland Asia, it had Western Ghats, Sahyadri, Eastern Ghats, Satpura, Vindhya, and all those mountains which exist today. And also must have had the rivers like Tapi, Narmada, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, which exist today. And as it was moving towards the mainland Asia, people saying there must be cultivating. Things must be absolutely normal there. Till the island went and hit the mainland Asia. But today when there is earthquake, it originates from somewhere within the body of the earth and the surface vibrates. When such strong Eurasia was in place and Jambudvip comes and hits it, it must have been like another earthquake. But different in a manner because the vibration must have got created only on the surface of the earth. The surface of the earth must have developed too many cracks from which the smoke or the gases would try to escape, find. And you don't find a fresh place to escape. You try to find some existing place from where the lava and smoke and gases come out. And that place was found in island of Sumatra in Indonesia, the Toba. It's called super eruption of the Toba volcano, which continued for 10 years. It was throwing out ash, smoke and ash, which happened 74,000, around 74,000 BCE, which means the Jambudvip hit mainland Asia 74,000 BCE or around that time. Well, someone from seismography has to check for the footprints at the base of Himalaya to confirm it. But meanwhile, we will see what really happened to India. As India or Jambudvip hit the mainland Asia, the front portion got cracked. The large parts like Iran got separated out. It moved westwards, some part this side moved eastwards, and still the island was coming ahead, and the land which got trapped between the Jambudvip and the mainland Asia got crushed, and it started coming out from both sides, pushing these pieces on both sides. And then what happened was, this was moving towards west and it was stopped. So someone stopped it. Let's see what is the condition today. This is Saudi Arabia, this is Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and this is Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, so, and this is India. So when Iran moved here, from here it moved here, not a lot of distance really, it moved here, it got stopped by moving Africa. And all this portion in between was formed by the, let us say, debris or whatever, land parts which got pushed away from original Jambudvip. And when after this it was stopped and it couldn't move furthermore, then it started forming the hills became mountains, mountains became mountain ranges, and that's how we have the Himalaya. And not only Himalaya, in my opinion, it went right up to Hindu Kush in Afghanistan, Iran area. That That is when the 19 rivers which are mentioned in Rigveda, which flow from Himalaya, must have appeared one by one. Because till then there was no Himalaya, there was no Himalayan river, there was no Saraswati, Ganga, Sindhu, nothing. So all of them must have taken place, have started flowing somewhere between 74 BCE and 74,000 BCE and 70,000 BCE, which appears okay because around 40,000-50,000 BCE that Yamuna got separated from Saraswati because of some earthquake, and that those footprints of that earthquake are available. Now, what all I have said so far is only about what happened to Earth. But from Pangea, then on to Jambudvip, and then on to Jambudvip after its impact with mainland Asia, there were people staying there. And what happened to them and their history? Well, I think I will cover it in part 2. Today I'll stop here. Thanks for listening. Jai Hind.